without the power of God behind everything I do, I really am completely inadequate.
I'm helping the culture. These guys are part of us as well. You know, these guys are our cousin. I'm helping the culture. I'm pushing the culture forward in another way.
Hey, Black Chow. Be what you can be. Learn what you must learn. Do what you can do. And tomorrow.
What do you do after you read? What do you do after you know all, right? And you can say that you're truly conscious. How are you putting what you know into action?
This is the iNITIATIV radio show, shifting the paradigm through conversation on any and everything relating to our communities and culture. Now introducing your new girl, Jasmine Renee.
Hey, what's up? What's up? It's your new girl, Jasmine Renee. I'm here at the Good News Radio Station.
Can you still call yourself new? I don't know.
Yes.
You are definitely not new anymore. it's like rappers calling themselves little and they like 30.
I can't be like a new concept. Hey, what's up? Mysterious Jax is in the building.
Oh my God, I've been seeing you forever.
Hi.
Wait a minute, how are you?
You were killing it, by the way, in the parade.
Thank you.
I was watching. I was like, get it, Trey. And I was really interested to see how the float came out.
They were just talking mess about me because I still call myself. This is Taylor. Hey, y'all. Everybody's just entering in the studio, so we're just. Yeah, you can hop on, Jax. Jeremy, right?
Yeah,
My name is Jasmine. Nice to meet you. There's bread, Mexican bread, if you want some. Oh my gosh, there it is. Somebody's happy about the bread. No one else wanted it. But yeah, so I can't call myself new anymore.
No, Jazz. You're like,
well, it's your new girl, Jasmine Renee.
If you're going with like good news, Jazz, or like.
Well, new Black History Makers, all that, you know. Okay. So that's a thing.
Everything is new.
Well, I'm just not your typical person. So I'm the new version of myself. I don't know. Like, I'm just not, original. So it's your new girl. It's not like, oh, I'm new on the scene, but it's just this is something you probably never really experienced somebody like me before.
All right.
So I'm new.
I like it then.
What about you, Keith?
I'm not going for that shit.
Why?
I'm not going for that shit, man.
Oh my goodness.
I get what you're saying, though.
I mean, it rings because I said it like the first couple shows, and it just, it's whatever. Shit.
You've been saying it since the beginning.
I know.
So therefore, it's time for a change.
So what am I, the old girl?
No. Why do you have to compare? Why does it have to be this or that? Why this can't be something totally?
Because everyone is like, "Hey, it's your girl, Jasmine." Like,
don't say none of that shit. Why don't you switch it up completely? Why don't you be a whole new individual?
Okay.
Why don't you evolve into something else? Because it's about time. There y'all go.
The oracle has spoken.
So listen. Keith is in the studio. Shout out to Tay. Tay's doing some videos. Jackie is here. We have Jeremy from the Bay. And Hub City Dre's in the studio. So mind you, these are probably three of the people that hold me accountable to trying to be better than what I am. So that's what you just heard from Keith. I'm pretty sure I will get the short end of the stick a lot during this conversation. But I am glad to be here as the newly evolved, whatever, Jasmine Renee. Right, Jasmine Renee. And going into the new year, 2019 and stuff. But yeah. Usually I talk about community stuff. I honestly do not know what's going on in the community for these upcoming days or this week. So please forgive me, but make sure you follow us at the iNITIATIV with no E at the end. And then so you can see what's up. And then I know we are also feeding the homeless December 30th. And that's a Sunday. This will be our last homeless drive of the year. We're trying to make it big. And if you have any catering businesses that you know that can donate a dish or something, or if you are cleaning out your closet and you want to donate clothes or donate money, hit us up because we're trying to do it big. We have about 2 to 3 more weeks, but we're trying to just go out there and do what we've been doing, just continue the movement and going and giving to the homeless. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Last week I told you guys about the Compton, the Christmas party, and Dre is here, the mastermind behind the after party. The mayor.
Mayor of Compton is in the building.
That's putting a lot on it, but man, thank y'all. I appreciate it, man. The pressure is there. The pressure is there. Hey man, the after party turned out pretty dope. A lot of people showed up. We gave away toys and shoes to over 2,000 families.
Right.
Wow. And shout out to Compton AV for coming through. Lil Easy, I Am Compton, Westside Boogie. Shoot, man, and it was just a lot of artists that came out, and all the food vendors, and the mayor came out, and the real mayor of Compton.
I mean,
came out.
That
man.
can be argued.
Yeah, man. But yeah, man, and a lot of people came out. We were just grateful, man. It was just a great turnout. So, yeah, man, it stirred up a lot of talk too in the city.
Really?
So, yeah. We had some people that was trying to stop it from happening.
Of course.
And I kind of like put that out on blast, and City Hall was in a frenzy. My phone started blowing up. I started getting calls from everybody in City Hall. But ultimately, it just had a wonderful effect on the city, man. We was in the parade, actually, and we had a float in the parade. Our float was a stage, and we had a party bus pulling our float.
It was freaking dope.
We had, Lil Easy jump out. We had AV jump out. My homeboy Kiki Smooth jumped out, man, and they all performed down Compton Boulevard, and it was just a dope moment for the city. So I'm just happy to be a part of it. That's it, man. Yeah.
That's super dope. That's really cool. It was cool to be there, like I said. I think, what is this, your 5th or 4th block party type of after party thing that you've thrown at the YU?
We've done, this is our 6th.
Okay.
Wow. Block party there. Yeah. And they just get bigger and bigger.
It does. It gets bigger and bigger every single time.
We do it end of summer. We do spring break. And then we do our Flavor Fest in the middle of the summer.
Right.
So, we do those every year. So it's just been going on for a couple years.
Piling them up.
Yes, piling them up. That's it, man.
So shout out to Dre, and just to have radio for the work that is being done in the city of Compton. I think it just to be there and see everybody, it was super cool to be behind, and just helping with everything. I think that was cool to experience. Jackie, you're here. How has your new show been? Yesterday was show 7 or 6?
Episode 7, Ladies Night Radio Show every Friday, 7:30 here at the Good News. Yeah, it was amazing. I'm excited of this. Every episode is amazing. I don't know if you guys heard it yesterday, but I had Jeremy and we talked about toxic masculinity. It got real deep. There was crying, there was laughing. It was amazing. So
toxic masculinity.
Yeah, it got real.
Dang,
you know about
it
that,
got real.
don't you, Dre?
No, okay.
Shots.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Build you up for the takedown.
Just kidding.
All right. This is gonna be a rocky episode.
I'm just kidding. I you got to start up the morning. You got to start it out. Shots
As you
fired.
should.
Yeah.
Shots fired. I'm telling you, where's that effect? I was looking for it yesterday.
I know she was talking about it all day yesterday.
What?
Wait, what?
So can I have an example of toxic masculinity?
Yeah. So here's an example. Yesterday, I was at a school with Jackie, and beautiful school in Los Angeles, and these 2 boys are really going at it. You're gay, you fag, just going back and forth, really going hard, not aware, that they're not gay, but the thing they're doing is putting that on the next person, trying to belittle one by attacking the sexuality.
Right.
And as they're doing this, there are people watching, right?
Right.
One of the people watching is transgender.
Okay.
So what they're doing is kind of what we do in hip hop, right? Try to come for the manhood, who's the biggest, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And as we're doing that, piercing contest. And as we're doing that, they're subjecting everybody else to that toxic masculinity.
that make okay? Now I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. No, that's definitely not me.
But okay, no, I was just joking. I'm sorry.
But it can also
how
be
me
like
and Dre are.
not allowing men to be vulnerable or emotional. Like the whole thing, like saying boys, don't cry, stop being a pussy and stuff like that. That's all toxic in the way that. And I know it's something how we grew up and you're used to hearing, but at the same time, it's like you're raising these boys to think that it is wrong to cry or show emotion or communicate the way what they're feeling. A lot of these boys are just holding it in and not expressing, and then that's why you get mental health, you get depression, you get like all of these things just start adding up, and we want to fix that. Yeah. So we weren't like, I know when you hear, you think, oh, they're going to be man bashing. It wasn't like that. If anything, we're trying to learn how to heal our boys, our men, and be there for them.
Right.
So.
Right.
So before we get deep into conversation, Jeremy, thank you for coming in.
Of course.
How long are you down here for?
I'm here for the weekend.
Okay. And then tell us a little bit about what you do.
All right. So my name is Jeremy Michael Vasquez. I'm an activist from the Bay Area, an author, spoken word artist. So I love the art scene out here. I do healing workshops across the country where I bring in videos, where I bring in my art, where I bring in my testimony, and I heal people in the jails, in the juvenile halls, and rehab centers, and in public schools.
Nice.
But specifically black and brown people. Let's just get right to it.
Right.
I go looking for them. You feel me? Like, I go looking for my people straight up.
I mean, I think that's necessary. Last week on the show, we had Kamari Carter, who's also a poet and an author similar to you, and she does a lot of work. But we talked about toxic femininity, and we touched on that, and we also talked about the importance of giving to your own first, the importance of giving to like those that you know. And when I was thinking, because the show was going to be about something else, but then when you hit me up, it was like, my friend's going to be in town. So I'm like, all right, I love conversations, so just come on the show. And from what you do, from what like I saw on your page and stuff, and then listening to the show yesterday, and I think I listened to the show when you were on the Good News too.
Oh,
when you came, I think I was listening to that show too. But just hearing about what you do, and then what Dre does, and then Jackie, I think you've entered into a space of like helping women in a way that a lot of people are not. A lot of times we talk about stuff or we like bury stuff, but I think with the Ladies' Night show, like it's kind of opening the door for more conversation. And then even when you have like all these women just come in, I think it's just listening to it, it's like a healing kind of vibe in here, but it's also fun. It's also something that like, you can experience and not feel like, oh, I just was cleansed of all of my toxic, behavior. But I think that's something. And then of course having like Keith here, who has a Good News radio station, I think we're all doing something. And it's very rare that you can get everybody that's in the room that is adding to the community. So I definitely wanted to shout us out for doing the work, because these rooms, it's very rare that, because I'm pretty sure we're all busy, I know that, but it's very rare that we all get together, or it's very rare that you're sitting and you can go and have a conversation with someone who's doing work, and you can celebrate them while they also celebrate you. So shout out to you guys for doing the work. So the conversation, basically, anybody that listens to the show, you guys know, I just love conversation. So the conversation is going to go. I'm going to definitely keep the conversation going as I do. But if something comes up that I did not plan to talk about, we're just going to go ahead and talk about it. Right. I definitely wanted to touch on, like Jackie was talking about toxic masculinity, because I thought it was dope, because my last show on Saturday was about toxic femininity. So like a question, just an opener for the guys. What is something that was toxic that stemmed from a female that you can think about in your life that was just you can put on to toxic femininity, and then to explain that, just something that had a negative effect on you that was birthed from a female, and not literally, but
I think the first thing that comes to my mind, so let's go there. The first thing that comes to my mind is being accused of something I didn't do. Mm-hmm. Right? So somebody says I did something and it's not true, but the consequences that happen to me are very true. So I still suffer because of somebody's word against mine. That word being a woman's word, take a step further, that being a white woman's word, and I get fired from something that I truly love doing because of their word against mine.
Dre?
Dang. I got to think on this one. I think that the super independent stigma that I think women raise their daughters to think or believe, and it's this thing where they don't need nobody else, they don't need no man, and they kind of have a vibe or an attitude about themselves, I think, coming up, and that might be toxic. And those girls that grow up like that tend to have sons, and then that effect that it might have on their son, that psyche. So I think that could be considered a toxic feminine. What is that?
A toxic feminine behavior.
Feminine behavior. There we go.
Okay, so you brought up they're raising sons. So how does that play in effect? Because I know a lot, and I'm sure, Jackie, you can attest to it. Like, I personally see a lot of women that are like, I don't need a man, I don't need this, I don't need that. What benefit? Because we say that it affects their daughters, but what does that do to the young boy that's being raised in that household?
So, like, my mom was like super independent. She handled a lot on her own. I've seen my mom do some pretty amazing things as a woman, and bravery, like brave things, and just amazing things. So I got like so much respect for my moms. But when I meet other women and they don't possess certain qualities, like I'm like, damn, you kind of suck. Like I might think less of them. I think
Jackie's like,
wait, what qualities are you talking about?
Here we go.
It's I don't want to get into direct things.
No, let's get it.
Let's get it.
Jackie's a newfound talk show host. So she's like, let's go.
Yeah.
Man, if I had to pinpoint some things, man, like my mom's never complained about having to handle any type of situation. So and because of that, I would expect. I see some women like whine about not whine. Damn, I'm not even gonna go into this. Is gonna be messed up.
Cause bro,
we're here.
All the wrong words, right?
Oh, this is great.
Hey, no, but okay, so. Yeah, I'm trying to find the politically correct way to say this.
You trying to say it?
Yeah,
just
man,
say that
just
shit.
say it.
Just say it. Say it with your chest.
It's there. Like women complain about having to do, I think, things that were regular for like my mom, like having to like work and take care of a household and do business and like to juggle all these different things. Girl might be like, man, I work 4 hours, or I like struggle so hard, I had a hard day, or I'm getting into it with this person, that person, just little minor stuff that like shouldn't even matter in life, or we make big issues out of, like. And I think that I just think that's kind of weak.
Do you think there's a difference because you as the son didn't get to see the side that you're seeing? So, okay, let me explain this. So you're a male, and that relationship with your mother, of course, was very different from the relationship that she had with anybody that she dated or whoever she was in a relationship with. So you're getting a side of these women that your mother didn't give to you. So when your mother came and was presented to you, whenever it's in the morning, whatever she's getting up and she's doing everything, she had to put on a face. So maybe she was not necessarily complaining, but expressing her concerns to somebody else, but she couldn't do that to her son. And now you're the person that is being expressed to by women because that's your role, but the son is not getting that.
This is true.
So I think
I can go for that.
Yeah, there's a a difference of the male and the female relationship where I think this might tap on some strings, but I think a lot of men expect the relationship that their mom gave to them when it's not the same pipeline, it's not the same structure. A lot of them expect, oh, you're supposed to be this, you're supposed to be that. But what would a mom be if she was going like, hey, little 5-year-old Dre, I'm going to work all the time and I'm struggling.
Well, no, I think that like when women are raised by their fathers and they look to the men that they date to have certain characteristics that their father has. I think it's the same thing for men. We grew up a certain kind of way, and we look for certain characteristics in our woman that maybe our mother or grandmother or aunt or whoever in that that had a part in raising them has. I think that's natural and that's normal. So that's what I'm saying. Like, hey, I'm not expecting my girl to be my mama.
No, not your mom, but I'm trying. That's why I was trying to take the labels off of it of mom and, girlfriend or wife or whatever, but just looking at the male and the female relationship between mother and son, and the male and female relationship between two lovers, or two, whatever it is that you want to label it. But just looking at those two and how the infrastructure of both of those are very different. So she might, and it might be excessive if she is complaining. But I think, yes, there's a certain level where we do have to put on things and just get it done. But I do think you're allowed to express to your significant other different things that you might not express in the world. Different things that you might not put on social media. Like, even with me in my relationship, like, I'll go to him and just talk to him like, yo, I'm tired of this, I'm tired of that, I'm tired of this. But nobody would ever hear about that. I wouldn't complain about those things outside of just that relationship. And he might be like, oh, you complain too much. And it's like, well, who would you want me to talk to about this? So it's either you get this or I don't know.
Right.
Okay, Jackie.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So a toxic feminine behavior that you've experienced from another female.
I think in my culture, like, the Latino culture, you're kind of raised to, like, just, be quiet and, like, just know your place, like, just kind of, like, not be a part of, like, certain things. And I think it's just kind of like, be quiet, don't speak up. And I think that's why a lot of, like, people in my culture just don't speak up a lot, at least like Latinos. But now, it's changed. But I'm talking about when I was a child, not now. As a child, things have definitely changed now, and I'm thankful for my father because I feel like he definitely instilled that in me. Like, and just to speak up, speak your mind. He would always have family meetings and include all of us. But like, there would be times I think that, like, growing up, it was just a little different like that. And so now I love how it is now that we are teaching our youth to speak up.
Yes.
It is so completely different on how it was when I was growing up, when I was like a younger child, like, and I love that. I love how we're teaching the youth now. So that's something that is changed, but it was toxic for me because I was that child in class and I was like, I wouldn't speak up. I was scared when the teacher would like pick on me. Like,
was it because the teaching thing was that it wasn't your place to speak up, or
because it's just in your mentality? So you take that everywhere you go, school, meet, like anywhere, in new environments, all of it. So you kind of have that mentality, like, just don't say nothing, be quiet. And it's just, and that's why, like, I can go into this because, like, that's why girls don't say nothing about, like, if they're being molested or raped and all that. Like, it's just like, you don't talk about it. And we kind of talked about, like, you just don't talk about things, and that's not healthy. So now it's like we're teaching the youth to talk up and speak up. So that's what I
think that's a super dope thing. And what you commented on that I posted over the week, I was having a conversation with somebody, and we were talking about schools and the kids because I'm in education and I coach. So it was just one of those things. We were just talking about the stuff, and something had came up about someone kind of like coming for me because of how pro-black I am and thinking that it's a racist thing or whatever.
We were just having this discussion.
And I not that I got offended by it, but I was like, you have to understand that, I'm in the face of these kids every day. I'm in the face of black and brown every single day. And when you see that, and then you go to other schools that are, by the beach, or you go to like the Beverly Hills schools and you see those, or you just have meetings with the teachers and your stories are very different. The energy of the campus is very different because they're going in expecting these students to excel at higher rates than they're expecting our students to excel. And I go, you'll be upset if you're on the front lines of this. And I, started thinking about the school to prison pipeline, and I was like, I'm literally just a deflector in that. I'm literally on the front lines every single day with these kids, and I'm like, there is a pipeline that's there, but there has to be some kind of, if we don't step in and try to block, then they will go, and there's facts that prove that they will go, and there's statistics. They put a whole bunch of money into it, and people don't put money into things that are not true. Yeah. And so with you being an educator, and Jackie, you talking about how the kids are speaking up and everything. What is something that you're kind of like seeing, or what is something that you're kind of like doing to push that forward?
So let's turn up, because I love talking about what's happening in the streets. You feel me? Like, you can't find me on social media because you can find me in actual streets.
Right.
I don't like to be live when I'm in the work. But in my field, in the Bay Area, it's very important that I say the youth are dealing with their life. Their life is in like shambles, jeopardy. I think about black and brown youth because that's kind of where I work with. In the black communities, the struggles are staying in homes. Gentrification has wiped us out of San Francisco. That is a 3% black city now. Go back in the day, and it was not 3%.
Right.
But yeah, flushed us, literally out of a city.
Wow.
Homelessness in the black community is huge because they didn't leave the city. We just got a tent. Now we at the bus stop. Still got class in the morning. Still got work. So the working poor is a whole different class now. And of course, the police brutality, we're not going to sit up here and lie. Like, every time I leave the city, I'm afraid of coming back and seeing that one of my kids ain't there no more. That is a huge, like, it's propelled to a place now where you can't ask a little kid anything about seeing a cop and I'm not getting, like, shook a little bit. Like, the PTSD has trickled their way down into the children. So those are all the things I'm balancing, I'm fighting against. In the brown community, it's just being deported. It's about being afraid of having your family broken apart. It's about walking down the street and an ICE agent asking you for ID and you're not having it, you getting thrown into jail. So along with that, there are so many different fears of just the black and brown communities that I think it's really important that as an educator, I instill the courage that it's okay to speak up, right?
Right.
It's okay to stand up, even if you're going to get in trouble for it. Like, it's better that you say something and instead of watch something happen. Like, being a bystander isn't an option right now.
Right.
And I think giving them that duty, giving them that call to action really propels them to speak up for all the things that are happening around them.
Right. Keith is leaving, even though he didn't say anything on the mic. Thanks for coming. Shout out to you. But Dre, you did a summer program, right, with kids.
Right.
And what was that like for you? Because you did it with kids from Compton.
Right. Well, we did the working with the sheriff department, the local sheriff department in Compton, and they wanted us to teach their kids in their after-school program how to do podcasts and webcasts. So they built a studio. I helped them build a studio. They pay for everything, and we just started having kids come in there throughout the summer, and they were just learning how to do work. You know, the soundboards, the cameras, and just work the crowd, and you know, just all the little jobs that's in radio. They learn how to work all those different things. And I had a long-term plan for it too, because after they learned that, I had developed a show with the sheriff department that would help bridge the gap between community and law enforcement to help combat things like police brutality.
Right.
We don't have that much of an issue of that like in Compton, but it's still something that we can have a conversation about because our people across the country is dealing with it, and specifically in the Bay Area because it happens. I know for a fact it happens a lot in the Bay Area as well. So, but the idea was to put that show together and attach local politics to it, but have the children work the soundboard, work the cameras, work all these different jobs behind the scenes. So they would actually be the production team. So that's the long-term plan for that.
Right.
But it kind of ties into something that he's done, because I'm like, man, those are the type of programs that they should take to areas like the Bay.
Yeah.
So there is a communication between police and because me personally, I'm kind of like switching lanes real quick. Like the Black Lives Matter thing, I'm like, yeah, I love the fact that they have organized the group, but I don't like the fact that they're not up for conversation. Because without conversation, then you're going to war.
Right.
And our people's not ready to go to war.
Right.
With no police. It's a lot of we're just not in that space. So my thing is we need to have conversation.
Right.
We need to figure some type of rules of engagement. We need, you know what I'm saying, something. We need to start learning policies and procedures and laws and just knowing how to respond with police. You know what I mean? We got to teach our kids how to respond to police. They're not teaching their kids how to respond to police. We see all the time, like when white people get pulled over, they curse the police out. Like they talking crazy to the police. We can be as respectful as possible and get our ass tased, beat up, choked out, killed. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's conversation that's going to have to happen. It's voting that's going to have to happen. It's like things are going to have to happen, and you can't do that when you're not like up for conversation.
Right.
Can I just jump in real quick?
Go ahead.
You said vote. So everything you said, I totally am so happy you talked about. That's hella important. But the voting thing, bro. Did you see? Did y'all follow the news of what happened in Atlanta or in Florida
with Stacey Abrams
during the voting?
Andrew
I'm not in all the details, no, but I know they suppressed the votes.
Thousands of votes.
Yeah.
Right.
They had buses that people were called to get off of that were taking them to vote. They had systems set up where there was only limited votes they could actually have before the system shut down. They orchestrated a perfect way to give us the idea we could vote and then strip it away from us.
Now, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, that's it.
No, okay. Now, and that's like a whole state, right?
Whole state.
Now, what happens is this, because we know that the system is fucked up.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit here and act like the system's not fucked up.
Right.
But we need to focus on small pockets in the communities, those small cities first. Because the reason why that can happen in the whole state is because on a local level, you still got the wrong people in place. Yeah. So now we put the right people in place on a local level.
Right.
Now, things like that, you can't suppress the vote over here in L.A. County or in this area, because the people that we put in place is people that look like us, that know the struggle.
Right.
So now we're holding them accountable. So now when you don't know your mayor, you don't know your council people, you don't know the people that represent you, then there's no way you can complain about.
Right.
That, because it's all levels. There's levels to it. So yes, on the state level, it's harder. Definitely on a presidential level, our votes.
It's a lot harder.
It's even harder.
Right.
But when we break it down, we have to start in small pockets. So we have to start in Compton.
Right.
Then we have to start in San Francisco. Then we got to go to somewhere in the middle, like Fresno, and all these different small cities, and then you will see the whole state.
Right.
Change.
Yeah.
And then if you can do that in all these different cities in Nevada or Oregon and Washington and all these other, to start doing the same thing, now you're seeing those states to change. Now you got the whole thing.
Right.
And it's a long-term picture. Don't get me wrong. And it's not easy.
Is.
I'm not sitting here trying to say, it's
do
all we got to do.
Right.
Do this shit tomorrow. No, this shit's going to be hard.
Right.
This shit is hard.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But we have to start. We have to start.
Yeah.
We're not going to see the change in our lifetime.
Right.
Like, let's accept that. It's not happening. It's not going to happen in my lifetime. But if my child can reap some benefits of how hard I worked, then I'm happy with that.
And a lot of us have to think that way. A lot of us have to get that into our minds. And I think when both of you guys were talking, you talking about I was talking about the pipeline. I think there's a lot of pipelines that are filtering. So when you talk about our cities and just even adults, and we're going through this pipeline of trying to vote, but then things are getting suppressed, or we're going through this pipeline of trying to get the community together, and we have to kind of all be a deflector into what the system has put together. And then even talking about what you were talking about how we're not going to see the changes. And I posted the video about, for some reason, what has been coming up is just the work of our ancestors. And if you go and you look back, there are, I think next year, what marks the 500
Jubilee
year 500 of when slavery initially started. And it's it wasn't that long ago. And our ancestors fought knowing, and they didn't see what we are seeing today. We're very blessed to have the lives that we live, but our ancestors, when you think about those that were enslaved, those were that were getting kicked off the buses, those that could not sit in restaurants, a lot of them did not see the day where we could all be sitting here together. A lot of them did not see the day where we could freely walk into establishments, but they still fought and they still knocked doors down so that we could be sitting here today. And even though it seems very normal to us, and it seems like, oh, that was so long ago that they went through this, that people were still getting beat, that they were still hanging people, it's still a change that had to happen. And I think in their heart of hearts, they had some type of faith that maybe one day my grandchildren or my children's children's children will be able to simply walk into somewhere without being thrown to the side or without being looked as inhumane. So I think when you're saying that, we won't see the change, we won't. It's literally impossible for us to live on another 100 years and see the change that we've seen since the slavery days. The increment of change that has happened, that's not going to happen in a lifetime. But it causes, people like us to sit up here and literally knock doors down. So when you talk about solely, representing or giving to Black and brown, I think that's very important because no one else is going to do it for us and no one else is out there doing it. So it's just really important to understand, like what you said, even though we fight and even though, yes, we're fighting for, Black bodies to not be killed by the police officers, or you're trying to make sure that the community is in good, relations with the cops. It might not, look good for the next 10 years, but maybe that 11th year, it might.
Well, I mean, okay, so how that even started with that idea started is like we had a conversation with about Tamir Rice being shot in, what was that, Ohio, I think? It's somewhere 12. On the East Coast.
He was 12.
He was 12, right. He was, the kid that got shot with the fake gun in the park, they got a call, said, hey, somebody in the park got a gun. And they get a call and they go and attack the situation head on. Policy allows them to do that, right? So we don't know that, but policy allows that to happen. That's legal for them to do. So technically, that cop was in his rights for doing what he did. Right. Technically, in L.A. County, that happens. The police are getting in the helicopter. They cycle the place. They look and see that that's a fake gun. No one goes out to the scene. Tamir Rice still alive today. So just on knowing the policies or the policies being different would save his life. Now, that doesn't mean the cop wasn't racist when he shot him. Right. Because the cop probably, if it was a white kid, it probably would have been a totally different outcome.
Right, that would still be here.
But the policy allowed him to work to work within that. And those are the things that we don't know. So I'm like, we have to be educated on those types of things. So that's why I was like, yeah, we have to develop something for that. I know I kind of like veered off a little bit.
No, you're good. But I mean, it ties into education. It's something, and Jackie, you worked in schools too, but education is something, and it's not, my thing is I'm a fan of higher education. Higher education doesn't always look like being in a classroom or sitting in front of a professor. This right here is going to be a form of higher education for us and those that are listening. I think a lot of times where we're sitting and we're conversating, and you might be just sitting in your living room or something, and you're having a conversation about a Tamir Rice and him just saying like, hey, we keep arguing for these people to stop being racist, but maybe we need to, scale back. Let's look at the infrastructure, because when you look at cops, the beginning, the origin of cops was slave catchers. So if you're starting off as a slave catcher, there has been no dramatic change in cops. These people have been, the morals that they have been the same since the beginning. So for us to go in and think, oh my gosh, why are they just now starting to kill Black and brown people? Why are they going after us? The origin of who they are, or what that establishment was started for, was to catch slaves and criminalize them for something that shouldn't have even been a thing. So now when we're asking, like, can you please stop? We have to look and say, what Dre said, what policy, because they keep getting off, and we know that they're not getting off just because the judge is like, oh, you the homie, let's go. No, they're smart. They're intelligent. There's a system that's put in place, and they're like, oh, yo, they don't know right now because we're not killing that many kids, but when we do, we need to make sure that we're taken care of. So make sure this policy, and then when you talk about local, we weren't voting. We weren't voting on a thing, so these laws were getting passed. So now there's a whole line of policy that protects them when they do kill us. And it's like, oh, I did X, Y, and Z. He should be in jail. No, he shouldn't. By law, because you didn't vote or because you didn't go out with your local elections, he is in the clear. And that's why what we've only seen out of all the killings that we've seen, maybe like one cop has been indicted.
Yeah, the one in Texas, I think, recently.
It's literally like one or two out of the list of them that we've seen. It's literally like one or two that have.
And the reason why the lady got indicted that shot the
guy in his house,
the guy in his apartment, because there was a new mayor or a new congressman or something. Somebody, a Black guy, got put in office, and then he was like, yeah, we're prosecuting her.
Right.
So he went back and prosecuted her.
Right.
But it was all in voting and getting the right people in place to do the right thing.
Right.
But America was built on slavery. America was built on the backs of blacks and brown. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? America, 500 years ago, America was the East Coast. It wasn't even America. It was like a few states over here on the East Coast. The other half of this shit was Mexico.
Right.
And then they used the Africans to help take over Mexico.
Right.
Then it became America. So, like, their program and their system is flawless. This shit works.
Right.
Now, you need to figure out why it works.
Right.
But this shit, it works.
Right.
Nobody takes over the whole world in less than 500 years.
Right.
There's been the Romans. There's been you can go in history. Like it took thousands of years for
Right.
people to like come into power. We've taken this shit over in less than 500.
Right.
This shit is ruthless around
Right.
this motherfucker.
Right. Yeah.
Damn.
It's when you think
Gotta
about
think
it,
about
it
it.
is.
Yeah.
It really is. But if you're just now tuning in, it's Jasmine Renee at the Good News Radio Station. Bringing to the Initiative Radio Show, we have Jackie. Shout out to Tay for getting all the footage and all of that.
Yeah.
Jackie's here, Dre is here, and Jeremy. So, like I said, when the show first started, this is basically, I think we all represent different parts of the community, I think, but we're all feeding back into it. If you listen, I mean, if you see what it is that you're doing in the Bay, like you have a completely different outlet, a completely different circle around you. Dre being in the city of Compton and people just seeing you, you have a completely different outlet than Jackie. And Jackie, you know, you're dealing with women's rights and making sure that women are healed and making sure that we are having fun, but still, you know, taking care of self. And that's a whole different avenue than me and the kids and trying to deal with community stuff and homelessness and all of that. So when you think about community, what is something that I guess everybody can answer? I'll start with Jackie, that you think needs to be changed. So something that is just a target point when you're fighting, because I know for me, being an advocate and fighting, I get backlash more so than I get accepted. So like when I'm advocating for something and more people will look at it as something that is negative because I'm going so hard and I'm passionate about it rather than coming and like joining the movement. So what I'm asking is, what is something that like you wish that people would do, whether it's joining in or something that you wish that women would do just to get back on some type of right track?
I just want to really quick shout you out because I was talking to Jeremy about you. And I was like, you're going to love her. Like, she is all about, like, helping the youth, specifically Black boys. And, like, that's what he does as well. And I was like, and I love it. I celebrate. Like, I am so, like meeting you has, like, given me so much, like, light and, like, focus on things that I want to do. But, like, you celebrate it so much and you're like fighting for it. And so when I was telling him, I was like, people get offended, like when like you were saying, like people like, why you know what I mean, like you're so pro-Black. And I was like, why wouldn't she be pro-Black?
Right.
You know what I mean? If I'm in your presence, I've never been offended. Like if anything, it gets me excited that you are like trying to help the kids, the youth, and that's what your target is. And so that's why I'm like, why would you be offended by that? Like, why? Right. You know what I mean? So if anything, like, I celebrate it. It makes me proud of, like, who I am as a person. It doesn't take away from me. If anything, like, I know who I am. I'm confident in that.
Come on.
And so somebody who gets offended is obviously lacks that. They lack that. They're like, your pro-Blackness apparently offends them. Why? Right. That's the real question. Why should it offend you? It doesn't. If anything, I'm excited. Like, I love it.
Thank you, Jackie.
And as far as the community, I'm also about, like, I've been in situations where girls, I get it. Like, there's catty girls out there. There's the mean girls. There's like, you know, all of that. And I just feel like I didn't like it. And luckily, I come from strong women. I come from a strong family. And I felt like I thought everybody had this. And when I meet women, I only have friends with guys. I'm only guys friends. And that to me is like shocking. And I was like, but women were amazing.
Right.
And I was like, so like I literally have a lot of the girls in my group are girls who never really were friends with other girls. But they've attached themselves to me because they're like, I fuck with you. Like, I love your energy.
Right.
And I'm all about supporting women and uplifting them. Right. I have like 7 or 8 nieces. So like, of course I'm going to be pro woman. Like I've never said like, oh, I'm only friends with guys. I've been like just put in situations with other females being shady to me. Shady. And if I didn't have my sisters, I probably would have been one of those girls that are like, I'm only friends with dudes. You know what I mean? Right. And I just like, that's something I'm trying to change. I was like, we got to change this. Right. And it starts with the girls, my nieces. And I think, I don't know if you heard that show, but I had my goddaughter. She's 13. Yeah. I had her on the show. And I wanted her on the show because I talk to her daily on how to communicate with other girls. I was like, you're going to get girls that are going to be jealous or going to hate you. She was the new girl in a lot of schools. So she, you know, as the new girl, you're just like, you get picked on or whatever.
Right.
And so if you heard the show, she's so mature for her age. She's like, you know, if I do have an issue with another girl, I go and talk to her. And what she said was I don't take my friends with me. Because when you come with a posse, what do you think there's going to happen? Like, oh, there's going to be a fight. So she's like, I usually go by myself and I'll go up to the female and I'll talk to her like, hey, like, my name's Anissa, you know, nice to meet you. So, you know, I'm not sure if this is true, but I did hear that you said this is this.
Right.
And then that's when they communicate, like, and the girl can be like, no, I didn't say that. Okay, cool, whatever. And so she's like, she's aware, like, if I was to come with all my friends,
yeah,
she's gonna think like, all right, let's go.
Yeah.
So she came, you know, so that's the things that I like to instill in my nieces and the girls, even grown women have told me like stuff like that. And so it just, my thing is like, I want us to unite. We're amazing people.
Yeah.
The women are changing the world, to be honest. And we can do so much if we all combine and connect with each other. So that's like my goal is like, I want to connect as many amazing people together, but like women in general, like I love it. You know what I mean? We're amazing.
Yeah.
Why would you not?
It's about, I mean, it's time for that. And I know there's a whole stigma of like black women not being able to get along and just that being a thing. And it's kind of, to me, like, yes, there is validity in that. There's validity in the fact that there are things, but going back to like what Dre was saying, you have to go back and you have to scale back and look at things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what in history can we look at that kind of proves that, or has kind of divided us, even when it comes to the black woman and the black man. And it going to slavery days when the black man was taken out of the household and he was being whooped outside in front of everybody, that woman now felt like, dang, like, you're not my man anymore. You can't come in here and take care of the house after they just like emasculated you in front of everybody. And now that kind of trickled down. And then they have government aid now, where now you cannot get aid if you have a man in the house, basically. And it's just one of those things where it's like, yeah, we look at it and we like to bash and we like to say, oh, you know, they can't get along with this person. But it's like, systematically, we have to understand that we are a victim of the system. And we have to understand that some things did happen to create that. It's not just that we woke up one day and we were like, oh, black men and black women were just not made for each other, or we just can't sit in a house together. But I think when it comes to any type of relationship, there are systematic things that, especially with black and brown, that kind of pull us apart. So like with your niece saying that's like dope, because even for me as a grown woman, I'm like now just like, okay, you don't have to beef with people. Like, you know, you can just say your piece, and if they're not with it, then they're not with it. And no, you don't have to have your whole posse hitting them up and X, Y, and Z. Like, we can go and sit down and have a conversation, and it doesn't always have to be on a negative tip. And that's something that I'm learning now. And, you know, I'm not always now, but I have been known to always be ready to go. Like, let's go. Like,
but
you
it's
tripping?
also because what you were learned in music videos. And honestly, these reality shows, what do they teach you? They're screaming, they're hollering, they're throwing chairs and throwing drinks. So people think this is how I communicate. Mm-hmm. No, honey, this is why we are in charge of talking to them.
That it's like you get brownie points for it. I know that's something I can identify with.
You're getting famous for it.
Yeah, like if I can go out and like beat somebody up or go off on somebody and really make them feel away, like you feel like, oh, you know, oh, I'm that nigga or whatever. So
so you gotta understand why people feel like that is okay, or why that image is out there. Mm-hmm. It's all a system. It's all a system to show you, you know, how you should act and how you shouldn't act. This is the reason why I got into radio. Mm-hmm. I was doing fashion. I was doing fashion shows all over the place. I was doing evening gowns and tuxedos and things like that. And I'm going on to do these fashion shows, and I'm talking to people, and they're like, yo, where you from? I'm from Compton. And, you know, look like, act like, walk like, sound like, dress like you should be from that area. And I find out, well, what does that person look like? How am I supposed to act? Because I'm from Compton. You know what I'm saying? They don't really have an answer, but it's based on what they see in the media. If I didn't have a Jerry curl, if I didn't say blood or cuz after every other word, if I didn't have a rag out my pocket or chucks or any of that, I wasn't from Compton.
Right.
But it's all based on the image that media has showed you.
Yes.
So not only does that show how they look at you, but sometimes how you look at you.
Right.
Yeah. So you might be like, well, this is how I should be, or how I should act. So that's why we communicate like we do, or certain things like that. So maybe we need to get into different positions to where we're controlling our own media, or we're showing what we need to show, the images that we need to show. You know what I'm saying? We need more Blackish, or what's another one of them shows? The Huxtables. It was just
the Cosby Show.
Cosby Show.
Yeah.
Man,
Family Matters.
It's all those. Like, you know what I'm saying? Those types
even
of
like
shows.
the Martins and I think One on One and what was Fresh Prince, and then the show with the Parkers. Like it was just a time where there was so much going. Like so much of you can see us on TV a lot more than you can see us.
Even George Lopez had a dope one.
Yeah.
Like, even his was like. I'm like, we have.
Everybody Loves Raymond.
Oh, I don't know about that one. I don't know.
Is that not a good show?
I don't know.
Is it Everybody Loves Raymond?
Which one are you talking about? No, Everybody Loves Chris or Everybody Hates Chris. Is that what we're talking about?
No.
Yeah, because we're talking about black and brown ones. I don't know.
That was
Everybody Loves Raymond?
Yeah, I don't know about
that.
Yeah, you Google that one.
No.
That's one of ours.
I remember Moesha.
Wait, have you seen Everybody Loves Raymond?
We reached it. I think we reached.
Isn't that a white show?
It has 9 seasons.
That's a reach.
Let me see.
Yeah, you pull a picture up on that. Google image that. I want to see what that cover looks like.
Is it a white show?
I think it's a white show. That is a funny show though. His mom was funny. It's Italian. They're Italian.
Okay.
Oh man.
I'm sorry.
I think you were thinking of Everybody Hates Chris.
No, I wasn't. I was
Seinfeld.
thinking about this one, but
That's the one. So
I
when we're talking
guess.
about that, those episodes are running through your head.
no, because you were just naming old shows, and that was an old show. When you
Yeah.
said George Lopez, I'm like, that used to come on around the same time, so
Yeah.
that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Wow, Bill.
Let's go.
Can I say one of my favorite shows that we didn't mention right now?
Yes.
Da 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 da. Living
Oh yeah.
single.
Yeah. That's a good
Black
one.
women in that show
Right.
reminded me of my house. I grew up in a house full of women, and man, they were powerful. They played so many entities in that community,
Right.
and I remember just being as a young boy, I would really tune in for that, like seeing the dance in the beginning of the video, this African body moving to rhythm to jazz. I was like,
Right.
oh, can my body do that?
Right.
And then going into the TV show and seeing them as lawyers, right?
Right.
Seeing them as people that are literally pouring into this house that are, like Queen Latifah.
Right.
Okay, Queen Latifah.
Right.
It just really shaped a lot of my mind, and I think those shows, man.
And Girlfriends.
Oh,
Girlfriends was
man.
another one. But I think even for me, Half and Half was another one. And even as I'm, growing into womanhood and just living and whatever, it's like when you were younger, you kind of see that. You're like, I want to be like them, and I want to go and travel, and I want to be working and come home and then go out, on Fridays and look forward to it. And that's something where, like, that's what I have to look back on. Of course, you see, like, the real people that are in your life, but I think even now, like, we need examples for our younger generations aside from the reality TV shows. And I'm not going to come and, like, bash it, because I do enjoy watching Love and Hip Hop from time to time. I do enjoy watching The Real
Shame on
Housewives.
you.
But I think, because this is the thing, and I'll get into it, this is the thing where there has to be a balance. I think you can enjoy, and granted, if these reality shows were more so like a Degrassi, did you guys watch Degrassi?
With Drake?
Yes.
Nah, I never
No?
I
Okay.
I heard it was good. I heard it was a good show.
Right, okay. Anyways, it was a show about, it was a lot of craziness, but it was scripted. A lot of drama, but it was scripted. So I'm like, if we had shows like that were just, it was drama filled, but it was scripted, I think that would be cool, along with also like the shows like we've just mentioned that were more on the positive tip. Yeah. I think there needs to be a balance, but I think there's a strong portrayal of negative stigmas that are toxic femininity. I think there's a strong portrayal of that in the media. And I'm not that I'm fine with it, but I need a balance. Show us where we are. I don't think it should be that we have to continue to promote ourselves in positive lights, but when it's our negative, everybody wants to promote it. It's on every media outlet and everything, but when we do something positive, please come look at my Instagram. But when I slip up and do something wrong, it's on every media outlet that there is, and I think that's a problem.
Yeah,
so
we reward negative behavior.
Yes.
Yeah. We do.
We reward negative.
But that's why it's important for us to have these communication, these talks with the youth, our kids, our nieces, and let them know, like, this is just for show. Like, don't behave like that in real life. You know what I mean? But I get what you're saying. Like, sometimes I catch those shows because it's kind of like, everybody likes to watch the drama, but nobody wants to be in the drama.
Right.
So you got to know the difference. You know what I'm saying? You just, I
and
understand
nobody
that.
wants to solely watch that. And I think when you get to a point where this is the only thing that you're watching and this is your only intake, I think you're, it's problematic. There's an internal problem where you're like, okay, this is all that I want. At some point in time, you should yearn for something positive. You should yearn to see Black excellence. You should yearn to see your people doing something that is better than arguing and throwing drinks across the table every single show. Like, you should yearn for that. Back to the question, Dre. What is something that you, Saturday was community. That we could think of one word, that's what it was. And even doing like the interviews and stuff, it was just like hearing people say like, you know, I grew up here and now I'm able to, you know, be a vendor and give back to my community. You brought people that have been living in the community back. So what is something that you wish to see from those people, your community, whatever?
Too often, people that are successful out of my area leave and they don't come back to the area, and it's not I'm not down in that. I just don't think that they see how effective it is if they do come back and give back. Furthermore, I know that the black dollar we spend $1 trillion a year,
right?
And the black dollar only stays in the black community for 6 hours versus, you know, other communities is
right.
You know, 20 days, 30 days, 60 days here and there. So black community only keeps it in 6 hours. I want to be a part of that change.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that in my area there's a lot of entrepreneurs. There's a lot of people that starting businesses. Their business can't thrive if we don't support those businesses.
Right.
So if I can bring few thousand people to one venue,
right.
and we can get all these black and brown businesses to thrive in their own community,
right.
I think that we're rebuilding a Black Wall Street,
right,
in a sense.
Yeah.
So when I do events like this, it's for that. Also because I can, for some reason or another, I've been able to have events where we can have both the Crips and the Pyrus in the same place at the same time. And everybody's like, yo, taking pictures together, you know what I'm saying, networking and having a good time together in that space. Like Saturday, there were enemies there. There were people that shot at each other at some point in that same place at that same time and was not even nowhere thinking about being on that page. I don't know why. Maybe I don't know. But that's what it is.
Right.
So I think that if we can kind of have more of that energy, more of that vibe, you know what I'm saying, and circulate that same love and that same dollar, you know what I'm saying, and continue to do that. That's my goal. That's one of my goals.
Right.
Another one of my goals is just to change the image of where I come from. It doesn't have to be negative all the time. Like we have a lot of positive things in the city.
Yeah.
Our city is cracking.
Right.
As far as like what we really have, like we got our own everything. Our own school board, our own school system, our own court, our own fire department, our own college, our own police department, railroad tracks. We got our own airport. Like we got farmland. My grandmother stays in Compton. We have a half acre. When I was coming up, we had goats, pigs, sheep, cows, pigs, horses, rabbits. This is all on the land. I'm not even bullshitting.
Right.
Like this is in Compton. One of my main memories, my first memories, I walked out the back door. There was a pig hanging upside down with his neck slit, just pouring into a tub.
That escalated
in my backyard. Yo. I know.
I didn't know.
My dad had the same thing, and we lived in Hawthorne. So yeah, he had pigs and all that, so chickens.
You get all of those different elements in one city.
You still have horses in Compton. You see horses in Compton.
Yeah, you see them walking down Alameda.
People use them as vehicles out there. They're using their horses.
Real horsepower. Real horsepower.
Real horsepower.
Horse lives matter too.
Bruh. And we just cracking like that. And we just don't, I don't think we realize it. And, you know what I'm saying? We take things for granted.
Right.
Like, I grew up with a pool in my backyard, but I was like, whatever. People were like, if I had one, I'd be swimming every day. You just take advantage. You just take it for granted. Like, I don't give a shit about this pool. Fuck this pool. You know what I'm saying? Everybody like, I'm coming over. We swimming. Like, all right.
Right. So, and I think what you said about the black dollar is important and something that I want to start bringing to the table because, you know, we know a lot of black entrepreneurs that have started their businesses and stuff. And we also know a lot of people that are like, when I shop at black-owned businesses, it's X, Y, and Z, or it's something negative, or they're not consistent, or this is that and the other. But something that someone brought to me was like, y'all have to be better consumers. So is that a thing where they're kind of like, you guys are coming in, and when they're...
niggas think they can get a discount.
Or even the person that I heard it from, they're a baker, and she was saying, like, people will just be like, oh, how much for, you know, a cake? or whatever. And she's like, do you go to Torrance Bakery and ask them how much for a cake, or do you come in knowing what it is that you want? And she was like, if y'all keep doing this, I'm not going to respond to you. And y'all love talking about Black-owned businesses and how we don't give to you, but stop coming to us as if we're not a bakery in the same right as Torrance Bakery or as Sprinkles or something. Wow. And I was like, that's a dope perspective, because I honestly hate to hear people say, I don't support Black businesses because of X, Y, and Z. And my thing is, you have to understand we're still trying to build community. So yes, all of the vendors that you know are not going to be perfect in the same way that your Target is, or the same way that your Walmart is, or the same way that McDonald's is, but it's up to community to help them. Hey, I went in and I didn't like the service. The service was whack when I went in. I want to keep coming back. I want to keep bringing my money here. So can y'all do something, to make it better? Or, I came in and I ordered online and my stuff came too late. It came way too late. Okay, can y'all do? Because I want to keep, I want to send people to you. I want to keep buying. And I think we have to understand, to expect the Black community to be completely perfect is a stretch. I don't think it's the right thing to do, but we have to be a corrective community when it comes to all fronts, whether it's the children, whether it's business owners, whether it's fatherhood, whether it's motherhood, whether it's sisterhood. I think we all have to come together and be corrective to each other and then show grace in the same, element.
I think we should just all strive to be better. Like,
let's go.
It's been so many times where I don't think everybody should be a business owner. I think everybody is not cut out for that.
Right.
I think I've been into barbershops, and because you own the shop, as long as you got your quota and you got enough to make your day, you taking breaks on people's head, you answering the phone, you gonna eating, you know what I'm saying? You gonna take a smoke break. You just got people. You got me in the barbershop for 6 hours. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, God dang, bro.
Right.
I'm finna just grow dreads. Fuck it. So,
he currently has dreads.
But the thing is, it's customer service though.
Right.
It's like, as long as I got my quota, I'm cool. And
right.
some people have that mentality,
right.
and you can't have that mentality going into a business.
Yeah.
I don't think we do good at customer service. I think that we can do better.
Yeah.
But I think at the same time we can be better consumers.
Yeah.
And we do nitpick at people that look like us.
Right.
Like, oh, this could be better. This could be better. I should get a discount because
I'm Black.
Yeah.
Like,
some bullshit.
Right.
Yeah. So we got to be better all around. I think all of us need to be strive to be better people. Period.
Right. And Jeremy, again, back to the question.
This is great because I've been kind of listening, and then I was thinking about my response. And then this is a perfect segue. I want to read you something.
Okay.
A poem that kind of tells you all the things you just asked me through the hood perspective.
Okay.
Can I do that for you real quick?
Man,
can I put on?
We'll roll one time with us.
I keep a backwood wrapper tucked in the verse of my favorite scripture. I don't smoke religiously, but with a half glass of red wine after a full day of being Black in America is quite the blessing. I haven't had indica in 3 weeks, but let me be blunt with you. You can't walk down my neighborhood without seeing a third grader with a pre-roll tucked behind his eardrum. I ran into one of my former students at the coffee shop. He told me how grateful he was that he could hug me on school days harder than he did the block. He dropped an eighth of weed in my hand and disappeared. This is a city where we pass joints, not judgment. This is how the hood loves you. It loves you, but not enough to keep you alive. A week later, he was toasted in a dust-up with some boys that said he looked at them funny. He used to brag the whole city would know his name, would read about him one day. He was right. He made the obituary. Mother asked me to speak at his funeral. It was loud. But all the endo couldn't drown out the suffering we all felt. I felt some type of way. He said I turned his life around. I wish I could have turned back the hands of time when I first saw him finishing off the roach and invited him to Bible study, but I didn't want to bug him. I log on to Instagram. I see his partners turning up on 3rd and Pelou, chilling off the sativa, drinking a fifth of whiskey, wearing an in-loving XXL memory shirt with the face of the deceased. It's heavy here. The firearm tucked in their new religion jeans. This is how the hood loves you. His son, not even potty trained, would never have his father's endorsement. Has to sleep in the same district where the killers caught his pop slipping at. The streets is watching, but a lot can get past you when you crossfaded. It doesn't help that our city officials turn a blind eye. No rest for the weary. Within 2 weeks, there's a graffiti piece in his honor. I love murals because they're a form of three-dimensional storytelling, but I hate them. I said I hate them because I wish I could reshuffle the deck, change the cards, or kids can live long enough to kiss their children on the collarbones instead of an artistic reminder that this is how the hood loves you. God must have bigger plans for us in his kingdom than he does for us right here. He must need a pair of strong arms and a sturdy back. We must be constructing something that requires our liveliness more than our families depend on our longevity. Maybe we're building a treehouse in heaven because they don't have any in the hood. We see more dispensaries and libraries. I'm surprised they haven't taken the books, ripped out the pages, and used them for rolling papers. Trapped in this food desert, it makes perfect sense we are surrounded by liquor stores. But if you take the Muni down AT&T Park, you'll get the finest lobster tail this side of the Pacific. But I heard the McRib is back for a limited time in the hood. This is how the hood loves you. We voted for our first black mayor this spring. She ran up the perfect hybrid. Retired pimps turned non-profit gurus and former gangbangers, now self-made entrepreneurs. Promised boys and girls she'll Golden Gate Bridge the opportunity gap. I met her at a fundraiser that smelled like fresh greens and perps. I took a photo of my fraternity. I put it on the gram. She jacked it off the web and used it to string together a yard sign. Said she'd give her all to reshaping our neighborhood after she won and the dust was settled. Maybe the smoke clouded her memory. This is how the hood loves you. She said she was a different type of breed. She hired hundreds of new police officers the next week. Maybe they'll help us dab into a new pair of cuffs or catch us hopping BART because it's way too expensive. And instead of letting us ride for free, teach us how to play dead. But while we're alive, what kind of quality is this? Inequity looks like our babies living with type 1 diabetes before they even get looked at by a Division I team. How short are you going to make the varsity team armless? Maybe a strain of Gorilla Glue will hold them together. The only thing sweet about living in the 415 is the Swishers. This is how the hood loves you.
Ooh, nice.
Man, that was deep and real as shit.
All right, like,
that was real, bro.
You know, right?
Yeah, hell yeah. That was real. God damn.
Yeah, it definitely, because I, like Jackie said, my, heart for black children is like just beats, at a high rate. So to hear that and see like my kids and stuff is just something like, yeah, that is what they go through. It really is. So yeah, it's like, thank you for sharing that. But did you want to explain more or?
Well, so name something you got from that you probably felt that it's a concern or something that's troubling in our communities.
Well, just the fact that we don't. Our heel is smoking weed. Our heel is just getting blunted and just letting it go by. We're not talking about it. We're not dealing with it. We're just getting blunted and not even.
Come on.
That's just how we communicate it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And that's for all ages.
Right.
The fact that we don't have no heaven here for us. There's no heaven here for us. Like, you know what I'm saying? There's heaven here for everybody else, but people that look like us. Like, you know what I'm saying? Everybody gets their heaven on earth except for us. This shit's it. You know what I'm saying? And this is the best that we've ever had it in the history of this
living
country.
in America, blacks in America.
Yes,
black and brown.
this is the best time that we've ever had.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And this is still not, like, we're not getting our heaven. So that's what these are the things I'm getting from this poem.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, to me, that's just deep in itself. So, bruh,
it shines a light on, because I talk about it a lot, just if you listen to previous shows, just, dealing with kids that have been shot, they were here and not, I think I've had one student pass away, but I've had students, they were here Friday, they didn't show up. Monday, where's so-and-so? Oh, he was shot, he's in the hospital. And I'm like, all right, when I get off work, I'm going straight to wherever he's at. And dealing with that, and them, and the world not understanding, like, they need to live a life like a child. Yep. Them not being, criminalized and stuff like that. But a lot of people don't shine a light on that, because when you see my kids and they walk into a room, yeah, you're going to be like, oh, these little niggas is bad as hell, like, whatever. But it's like, why are they like that? Like you said, what are they seeing in the media? They're seeing this, so then they respond this way. So I love pieces that shine a light on blackness. And I think the way you started it shined a light, and it made you think as you were going on and explaining the story. I kept thinking about the boy that you said that's in third grade that had the, behind his eardrum. So I'm like, I appreciate things like that, because a lot of people don't see our kids that way, see them beautiful enough to write a piece like that and explain, you know, what it is that they really are going through. So I think that's a really dope piece.
I also think that we can step up as being parents too.
Come on.
We can be better parents because I think what the teachers go through and what the teachers see, the educators see, is a direct reflection of some of the households. So it's not always on the system or always on the child itself. Sometimes it's on bad parenting or parenting that could be better. Yeah, man. So I think that in some of the lyrics, just how kids having that like smoking at certain ages and everything, like that's stress. Right. That's real stress. And some kids shouldn't have to deal with stress on that level. Like no kid should have to deal with stress on that level.
And you'll be surprised like what the kids like go through, because even, you know, with you saying that and you being a parent that is very present, I have to go in and deal with probably half of a class that parents aren't present, and parents don't have that mindset to be better. So what I tell people, and I've gotten a lot of people that try to argue it, but I'm like, more so teachers that have tried to argue it. But when I come into a classroom for those, 8 hours that I'm there, I have to be the very best teacher, regardless of that parent being there or not. If that parent is the best parent or if that parent is the worst parent, I still have to do my job. And a lot of educators are like, well, you know, the parents still need to do this. And I go, but I'm not getting paid to co-parent. I'm getting paid to teach. So as a teacher in this community, I have to still do my job. If this student needs me to correct them 50 million times, that's what I have to do, regardless of if when they go home, what I'm correcting is being dismantled. And a lot of times that's what's happening. But I tell people all the time, and teachers will be like, no, you know, you're doing too much. And it's like, you do too much and then you lose it. You don't do enough and then you lose a student and then you wish you did more. And I said, I'm not, you know, I can't be in a position where I wish I did more. Even the one that, you know, got shot, when I pulled up to him, I'm just like, yo, like, you got to chill. Like, you got to chill. With all this activity you doing, you have to chill. And me just showing up, and he was just like, you know, I really appreciate you. He's like, he was in like 8th grade, I think, when that happened. And he was just like, you know, I really appreciate you for coming. And I'm like, for me showing up and then and I'm like, and thinking like, to think, what if he didn't make it? And I'm like, that's why I just do what I do, and I go so hard for it, and I go so hard for my students and show up for them, because I'm like, you don't know when the last day is going to happen. And a lot of my students, they don't get it while they're in my presence. Yes, I love Ms. Gates, and Ms. Gates, I want to do this, I want to do that, but they're still doing X, Y, and Z when they're not in the presence of adults. But at some point in time, you're going to remember the love that I showed you. You're going to remember how I corrected you. And I'm like, that's why I do it, because the same reason, like what you were saying, we're not going to see the change. And I might not see some of my students again, but I guarantee you they'll remember at least one thing that I did or said for them.
Right. That kid's gonna remember you being there forever, because that was a life-changing, life-altering situation that happened to him. Like, regardless if he made it or not, if it be 100% or not, he's still gonna remember the sound, the smell, the feeling of having blood pour out of his body, thinking whatever he was thinking. Am I gonna make it? Am I, you know what I'm saying? Am I not gonna make it? Whatever. That trauma is going to be there forever. Right. So you're attached to that now. You know what I'm saying? He might not have had nobody that even gave a shit to really like come and check on him. Sometimes people come from that situation. Right. Chances are a kid that gets shot in the 8th grade is dealing with some things that got him in that position to even get shot. In the 8th grade. Right. That's insane. Dude, what are you, 13, 14?
Yep, 13.
Yeah, and you take a shot? Yeah. Bro, that's crazy. That's crazy, man. So, and education is super, super, super important. And I don't think that people, parents realize that the first 5 years is the most influential of a child. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can develop a child's mind and brain at ages 0 to 5. Right. I just posted a video of Nick Cannon teaching his kid how to read. You know, using that My Baby Can Learn. I've swore by My Baby Can Learn for the last 5 or 6 years. My daughter started off on My Baby Can Learn at 3 months. She was like reading words at like 1.5, 2, like words that I would be like, "What's that?" Quadrilateral. She's like reading that shit, and it's not that she can sound it out, but she recognizes the words, and she, you know, and she was doing that like in English, Spanish, and Chinese. Like, but you start off at an early age to where the brain can accept it, and then that's what becomes the interest. Now she's like, I want to read books. I want to read books. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you teach them early on what's important.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If we got them in front of watching videos, rapping music, rapping, rap, and not that they can't do that,
right? But it has to be a balance. Yeah,
there's a balance to everything.
And I think one thing for me, because I worked in the charter school district in Inglewood, so it's just a lot that goes on in there, and you see a lot of just negativity. You see a lot of that. So one thing for me that I saw is there are a lot of bad charter schools out there. And I know that there's a few good ones. And what I would tell people, I'm like, I've been to both of them. I've been on both sides, and I've seen the same kids be in different environments. But one, the expectation level was a lot higher. One, they saw more teachers that reflected them.
Come on.
And they actually cared, because it was like, I was in your spot. But these kids are cousins to these other kids that are in the other charter schools where the expectations are much lower. The, negative behavior rate is much higher. The expulsion rate is much higher. But at this school, which is, I think they're maybe like 5 minutes apart, they're just doing so much more. They're going to better schools when they get out. They're going to, top universities when they graduate from this school. But what happened was they got black people into the school, and they started telling them, like, no, our black kids can do. And then when you go to this school, it's just like, oh, this is just a babysitting service. And I say that to say our kids can learn. Our kids can be great. And there's also studies that show that inner city students are much smarter than other students, that because we are learning how to think on our feet. We learned that at a very young age. We learn how to navigate against things. We've also seen a lot of negativity, and our brains kind of bounce back from it. So when something happens wrong, we understand how to, that's life. We just get back up on our feet. And there's studies that are on that, but who doesn't know about that? Our kids don't know. They haven't told our kids, but white people know. They know at the end of the day, inner city students, the capacity of our brain level and these students is at higher rates than our white kids. Yeah. And it's fact. They've studied it. We didn't study that. They've put it out. So it's just like to see that, and then to see a whole bunch of schools, even with public school systems, like there's thousands of schools, hundreds of thousands of students, and a lot of them are not learning at the rates in which they should learn. And I'm like, with me, I saw it at a charter school level, and I'm thinking, it's just this charter. Then I got into the public school, and I'm like, yo, you mean there's hundreds of thousands of students that y'all don't care about? That y'all just passing through the system? And then when they graduate from high school, where are they supposed to go? Y'all are just waiting for them to go into a prison cell. So it's like, what you were saying, how can you get mad when someone like us, when we're doing things to push and be a deflector in this pipeline of whether it's community or students? Like, how can you be mad at that?
You yourself is personally fucking up the plan. That's why. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a different plan for this shit. So you coming in here with your goody two shoes ass trying to make things right. You come here trying to fuck up our system with all this education and things. I like the fact that they got high walls around the school, and they got barbed wire around the fences and trying to keep. I like that shit. I like that y'all respond to these bills. And, that's like, it's all training you a particular way, and you coming in here with all that education trying to change shit. Fuck that. I like the way this shit's working. I got these niggas trained. That's really the mentality, though.
Yeah.
So, I think that what you're doing is very commendable, man. America itself just doesn't value education. As a whole. Definitely doesn't value your black ass education. Like, and you know what I'm saying. So it's level again. It's levels to it, man.
A lot of levels. Just and it's work. It's not easy. And I tell people, like, my kids are crazy, and now I'm working in special education, which is, when I tell you, a whole different beast. Some kids can't speak. Some kids are autistic, and it's like, it's just different. But what I've seen is our black and brown kids are getting the short end of the stick. Everywhere that I go, I'm like, yo, okay, so what about my black babies? What about my brown babies? They're being seen as more disruptive. But this kid who's not black and brown, they doing the same thing. Oh, but let's charge it to the autism. So that's something where I'm like, wherever I'm placed, I'm always to be an advocate. And when I got this job, I was like, well, what am I going to advocate for? They're in a special education program where I'm thinking that everyone cares about everyone that's here. that everyone is getting the services that they need. It's not that. So even in dealing with, special education, you still have to like fight for us. And because there are people that are dealing with, that have special needs that are being killed. Black people, black and brown, that are being killed by the cops, and they have autism because they can't speak, or because they get frightened and they have, a nervous reaction to the cops, and the cops think, oh, you about to do something, and they shoot and kill them. So I think there's always a place for advocacy. There's always a place. And I'm learning that, me going into a whole new position, I'm just like, dang, y'all fucking us up even with the special needs.
They fucking us up all over the place. And I think that we need to take heed to vaccines and giving our kids vaccination shots. Like some of that shit.
What was the documentary?
It's called Vaxxed. Yeah, and it shows how some vaccines have a direct correlation with autism in black and brown children. Heavy. So we need to consider those types of things.
Right.
Like they're pumping 36 shots in our children before they're 3 years old. Wow. And you don't know what all them different shots are.
Right.
What they
and
have.
a lot of schools don't allow you to go
come
to their school without those vaccines.
Right. We had
so
about
you're being
40
forced.
that couldn't come. Like, they were like, they got there the week of school or whatever. Once they went through all the paperwork, there's 40, y'all can't come back until, and it's like, a parent that's maybe a working mom or something, and she's like, I really just don't want my child to get this. And she's like, but my child has to go to school. She's like, yo, just get the shots. Just get the shots so we can go to school.
Wow. And I know several parents that give their children shots before the age of 3, and they saw like a dramatic change in their motor skills and their verbal.
Even to the point of death. There's been kids that have died from it.
So it's we're being attacked from a lot of different angles, and we just have to be conscious of it and develop systems and things that benefit us.
Right.
Like, I mean, maybe we should have our own schooling system. Yeah. Maybe we should think about something like that. You know what I mean? Maybe.
And I think he started a school in Harlem.
I love the fact that
LeBron too.
LeBron. Maybe we need to start our own schools
And what he's doing, he gave the ones that, I think everyone gets a bike when they go to the school. I think there's like washers and dryers on campus in case things are dirty or whatever. This is a LeBron school, I promise.
Yeah.
And he's put things in place so that, because that's a real thing. When you come to school and your kids' clothes are dirty, they do not learn at the rate in which they should, because you have, even you think about us, if we come in and we're like, oh my gosh, I think there's a hole in my shirt or something, we're like, oh, I got to keep covering up. You're not focused for the day. The kids are mean, and they talk about other kids. So when your kid comes and their clothes are dirty, they're not learning, and that takes away. So to have the washers on campus, and then to also, I'm pretty sure they're doing something with food and all of that, but then to also have the bikes and stuff where everybody is getting a bike, and it's not singled out to, only the people that need it are getting the bikes, and you ride a bike to school, you must, be poor or whatever. But everyone gets a bike. Everyone can ride their bike to school. I think that is super dope that you have people that come from an environment, go back, like you said, they come back and they go, okay, this is exactly what I needed when I was growing up. I needed a washer and dryer. We had to always go, get it washed somewhere else. Or I needed a ride to school and I didn't have it. I needed food and didn't have it. And LeBron's like, yo, boom, 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 boom. Everything that I needed, let me give y'all.
Because when you're in the hood, dope. No one has a unique story. Everybody's story is pretty much the same.
Right.
So if you're LeBron and you come from that situation, you know that a lot of my friends had this issue, and it affected a lot of us in different ways. So if I can change that, and I do that, and it changes our whole community, wow. Now that those are powerful moves like that. You know what I'm saying? Those are real powerful moves. So I commend LeBron for all this social advocacy he's been doing.
I actually think he should just shut up and dribble. Is that what they said?
What?
It's a documentary.
Someone on one of these Fox News broadcasters said,
a white lady, right?
Yeah, she was like, he should just shut up and dribble, and he made a show out of it. And I really commend him because like that's what they think of us. Mm-hmm. No matter if you're a rapper, artist, whatever, it's still a nigga, dog. Right. So why you talking? You should be happy. You should be so grateful to even have that. Mm-hmm. Why are you doing extra with it now? Why you want to influence everybody? Just keep it to yourself. Mm-hmm. And that's like the assault that we talk about happens from every angle, right? As we get older, it does not dissipate. The hate you give, like Tupac said, right? The hate you give little infants fucks everybody. And we're trying to get out of that right now. You're trying to grow from that hate that we've been taught. And I think the older we get, like LeBron, and many of my my heroes, my sheroes, right? Like Colin Kaepernick in the Bay Area is like Muhammad Ali anywhere. We have such respect for people that are willing to sacrifice for our people. And if our athletes can kind of see that, if we can see that, why can't we kind of join them?
Yeah, I think that it's a new time that we're in right now, and I think a lot more people need to start standing up, and not even standing up, but doing the work that, like, even Nipsey's about to do. Nipsey's about to put a math and science center directly in the hood, and the schools that I was talking about, those schools are, you know, central to that location. So when I'm thinking, I'm just like, you're about to put something that's central to, or that focuses on math and science to help these kids get to better schools and better universities that helps the community. Like, people that are doing things like that, and it doesn't have to be you getting on Instagram and you talking about, oh, let's, you know, F white people and do this, whatever, F the system, you know, it doesn't have to be that. But what are you doing in your own communities? And I think there's a lot of, just even rappers nowadays, like, I'm loving now even what Meek is doing. Like, Meek is just talking about jail reform and stuff. And even the video, if you have not seen it, I think it is on New York Times. He did a video. It's a black background, but just type in Meek and like, I think prison reform or something like that. But he just talks for 2 to 3 minutes, and I did a show on it for a little bit, but he just talks about Miranda rights, and he kind of like takes them apart, and he kind of just explains them and gives it a very real look to like how we experience them. And I think he says, like, you know, the one thing that I remembered was like the color of your skin will and can be, or can and will be used against you. And he was saying, you know, there's some other things, but just things like that. And he goes into it and he explains it. And I'm just like, I hate to say, like, you know, oh, that was the best thing that happened to him. But I do think we are like, trials are used as a stepping stone to get us to the next level.
We have to learn from from our trials and tribulations.
And I think he has. And not saying like, oh, he learned not to do X, Y, and Z, but I think he's learned where his place of advocacy is. And I really do appreciate what he's doing with the movement. I really do appreciate even what Jay-Z is doing, not just as for black men, just what he's talking about when it comes to healing, when it comes to going to therapy, when it comes to love and stuff. I really appreciate it, because it's not in a point of like, oh, I'm being cowardly, or I'm toning my masculinity down. I'm still as masculine as I want to be, but I'm going to talk about these things because we need to. So I just appreciate, like, you know, what hip hop is doing. I think hip hop is doing great things right now. And they're advocating for those things that they should be advocating, but not only advocating, but then also putting in like the work.
Yeah, agreed. I think Jay-Z and a few of them are doing like wonderful things for the hip hop community. So I think things are changing as far as like the energy culturally. I think that we're waking up. We're not woke, but we're waking up as a community. Yeah. So I'm excited to see what the future holds for us as a whole.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of like just a beautiful thing to see. It's a beautiful image just coming together. And, you know, like you see those videos that kind of like the colors kind of come together. It's just a beautiful thing to like see things coming together.
It's Voltron.
Yeah.
There you go. It is.
I don't think you guys are giving yourselves enough credit, though. Like, you and Dre, Jasmine have like you guys put on like so many events throughout the year. I see that. It's like every time I'm seeing something, and you guys are creating a space for people to express themselves or do the homeless drive. Like, you know, I told my nieces, I was like, I'm going to take you we're going to do this homeless drive, you know, and they're excited. They want to do it. But you guys do events for the community, and I commend you for that. Like, it's very inspiring to see. I love going to both of your events whenever I can, and it's that itself is a movement. Yeah. You're giving the kids, the youth, people in your community somewhere to go in a safe space to be themselves and be a part of something. So give yourselves that credit.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. You guys are awesome.
Yeah, thank you, man. I think it's important just for us to have a comfortable space where we can just be ourselves and just and show love. I think that's just what needs to change, and we just need to change that with the youth. So I think that since we're all working on it from different angles, because we're attacked from different angles, we all have to work at different angles. Yeah. To make this thing work.
And that's reflected here. And just the different angles that
that's what it is. So
point towards.
We bring that together, man, and we continue to do our job. Our communities will get better. We'll grow. Right. we'll nurture each other, man, and we'll see some changes in the next 20 years. You know what I'm saying? It sounds it sounds far away to us, but it's really not.
And if you think about it, the people that, you know, there was somebody saying the same thing that you're saying 20 years ago. And what they put and wanted to manifest is we're seeing it now. Yeah. So you have to think, you know, it's always working, but you have to take your step. You know, somebody took a step last year and we're going to see it in 19 years. Yeah. Somebody took a step 4 years ago. We're going to see that in 16 years. So there's something that's always, you know, happening. But another thing I wanted to touch on, I know a lot of us, we give so much to others and we're always focusing on like trying to be better, you know, trying to make sure that in the 20 years we'll see a difference. Or, you know, like you said, and even as you were listing, I think on the show yesterday, you were just talking about the different groups that you guys have in the Bay Area that you kind of go to. And like you talked about, you talked about the mothers that have, you know, been victim of their child being shot and killed. And you talked about the kids, but I want to talk a little bit about healing because I think a lot of men don't really talk about like healing and mental health. A lot of us women do. Yeah. But I want to ask like a question. What was like a time, I guess, you felt like you could say like a rock bottom, but a time that you had to kind of like heal yourself, or a time that you noticed that something had to be healed within you, and kind of what was the transformation out of that?
Here it is. This is like a real great story, and I'm really happy that I can tell it with people like this, because my pain is my platform. Right. Very true. Last year, Labor Day weekend, my father passed away. My father is as Oakland like comes. You think Oakland, right? You have this idea of Compton, right? Right. He was just this big, black, strong man who had been in and out of jail, right? Who had been homeless, been on drugs, but he finally clocked out on a sidewalk, on a bench, on a bus area. It was over. The journey was over for him at that point. And I got the phone call on BART. I'm on Fruitville Station, which you might know is what exactly, right? So I'm on BART, getting the call, and my aunt's like, your dad, he's dead. And I'm like, why are you calling me? Like, why are you calling me with that? You know, you got the wrong number. Like, you don't hit me. Don't call my line. Don't acknowledge him to me like that. He's gone. Oh, well. I made it 30 years without him. I'll go 30 more without him. And I hung up on her. Straight up. Went to the funeral 2 weeks later. Everyone's asking me, hey, Jeremy, you good? You good? I'm like, I'm Gucci, bro. What you mean am I good? Like, I don't need him. I never did. Like, I said I go talk to his funeral. I told a joke at the funeral. I said, at least he can rest in peace now because old dogs go to heaven, right? Right? And nobody laughed. And that was a real low for me, right? Like, I just attacked this guy. Even when he's dead, he gets no rest. I'm not letting go. I don't have the capacity to let go yet. So this guy stood up in the funeral, and he was like, yo, to the son that spoke earlier, I cannot tell you how to grieve, but I knew your father. And he did not want to be in your life because he thought if you saw him, you want to be like him. He thought in some abstract way, if he left you away, you wouldn't try to look for him and emulate his behavior and follow to the same path as him. And it, for the first time in my life, gave me empathy, like for that man. Like, wow, because everyone told me he was a deadbeat. Everyone told me I'd be just like him. So I wanted to distance myself from him. But the work I do is a reflection of him. Why am I in these communities? Because I'm trying to prevent the next man to grow up like me. So it's very personal. And during that time, I was able to understand how fucked up I had him and how I never had a chance to see him as human. And he was flawed and he was this and that. But this system was on his ass ever since he was young. And they got him. He never got out. They swallowed up my father. And I wrote a book in dedication to him. 2 months, just poured out my feelings, poured out this pain, poured out this anger. And now I'm able to take that book with me across the country and dedicate this work to my father. Because I think I owe it to him to right some of these wrongs. Right. And as I'm doing this, right, there's other people that are like, oh, shit, well, I got a story kind of like that, too. Right. And that's the greatest thing about healing.
There's no unique story. I think there's somebody that can always identify with the things that, you know, we go through. But that...
And being able to express it like he did. Like, I think that's healing in itself, being able to express it. Like, because, like, a lot of men aren't comfortable with talking about that and expressing it in such a way. Right. So, that's dope in itself. And it's inspiring to other men to be able to just kind of like release and let go of certain things. I think I've talked about a lot of different things that I've struggled with over time, and it doesn't always feel comfortable. It never feels comfortable. You know what I mean? It never feels comfortable.
Right.
But I think a time where the question was a time where
you were like at a low and had to basically heal.
Yeah. I have a similar father story. Like I said,
right.
So I think that I can almost relate to that, like verbatim. My pops was in and out of my life like that too. So, I you know what? I wanted to be, because he wasn't there, I wanted to be such a present father when I got the chance. I can't wait to actually have my chance to right all those wrongs.
Right.
So, but with that, I always look forward to being a father, but I never look forward to being like a husband. So it's like, I never look forward to having an actual family. I just wanted to have my own. And then that's kind of like, it's a distorted view of things. Right. And so I'm trying to fix that myself. Man, I've lost a couple brothers, whether it be to cancer at the age of 26, or if it was killed by his own his girlfriend's son. You know what I'm saying? So, and that was just last year, a little over a year ago. So I've dealt with having to heal myself in those type of areas, or try to, and feeling alone. It's like, yo, both your brothers are gone. You know what I'm saying? So it's like having to feel alone and no one's there. You know what I'm saying? Just, I don't know. I don't even know if it's being healed part. You know what I'm saying? Like, you still think about it. You still have your moments. You still like, feel like people can't relate to you or understand you in certain ways that they would have. You know what I'm saying? My dad's line was so strong. Like, Spicer's, like, we look alike, we act alike, we talk alike. It's like the genes are like ridiculous. And so me, my brothers, my nephews, everybody is just like so identical. So I know my dad through having my siblings or my nephews. You know what I'm saying? I didn't have much of a relationship with him, but because we all so similar in so many ways, I'm like, I can guess how he was. Because it's like, it's crazy how similar we all are. You know what I'm saying? To how we walk, to how we sleep, to just everything. It's like the way you hold your mouth. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody does it the same way. So, but yeah, you just, I think having conversations and talking with people that's been in similar situations sometimes help, or just being able to have the conversation and not be judged or looked down, or like, man, you dampering, you toning, fucking up the mood, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, this shit is like campy shit, right? You know what I'm saying? So you be like, yeah, man, my brother got killed last year, you know what I'm saying? You're like, damn, Dre, fuck.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But you get the chance to actually, put that out, and, you know what I'm saying? I don't talk about shit like that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It happened. You deal with it on your own, but there's some space and time where, you have to deal with it personally. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? That shit hits you at the most odd moments when you try to run from shit like that. You know what I'm saying? You drive and you be like, what the fuck is going on? Like, let me pull over. Like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And you tripping. Like, damn. Like, just from a memory.
Right.
Or, some shit, so.
Or just seeing something. And Jack, I think, Dre, you were there too, but we talked about bringing in a therapist some months ago or something. Yeah. And we were going to bring in a therapist. I think it was for me, you, Keith, and Dre, and it was some other people there. I think maybe Mario was there or something.
Man, I'm telling you.
But we were going to bring in, but I think it's necessary because, like you said, like, we don't have that space to talk about certain things, but I think the thing is, and I tell my kids this all the time because, they come in heavy, like, just heavy, just stuff I didn't have to deal with. And I'm like, yo, at this point in time, you got to understand life is going to happen. You're going to disappoint yourself. People are going to disappoint you. Life will happen. But you have to get up for yourself. You have to make sure you're good. And I'm like, the things that we hope for and the things that we're wishing for, they won't really happen if you're constantly worried about things or constantly worrying about yourself. And I'm just like, at the end of the day, yes, your father might not come back. Yes, your mother may be strung out, but understand that you still have you. Understand that you still have to deal with you. And I think that's a place where it makes you okay with talking about those things because it's like, yeah, you know, it happens. Those things are, it is what it is, and they happen. And I'm going to talk about it because I need to heal from it. The same way where if your arm is broke, you go to the doctor, and we're not ashamed to go, hey, can you fix this? I'm broken.
But you got to know who you can and can't talk.
You have to know who you can and can't talk to.
Use that shit against you.
And it's work.
Oh, my God.
It's work.
So you got to be able to know who you can, like, pour into and allow to pour into you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you just can't be like, yo, I'm just going to fail.
Protect your space.
You
Protect your energy.
Yeah. Because you not protect, if you, the consequences of not protecting your energy, like, how are you going to open up to the next one?
Right.
Or is that even possible? And how do you respond when somebody opens up to you? Are you going to do the same thing? Like, fuck, this is what happened to me.
Yeah.
Fuck her feelings. You know what I'm saying? So,
and I think
you got to know who you opening up to.
Yeah. So true.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a lot. And I know, I mean, like you said, there's no story that's unique. I think we all have, you know, low moments and stuff, and we all go through just things where it's like, and like that was supposed to be your rock bottom. That was supposed to be the end all be all. But then you have to look back and be like, and I tell people this, like, look back to that time when you thought it was the worst of things. And where are you today? You know, you're not going through that anymore. Or even if you're going through it right now, you were able to wake up today. So that means you have another 24 to not even get it right, but just to live. And a lot of people, like, we think like, I have to be better. I have to be perfect. I have to do this. And it's like, no, you're going to have shitty days. You're going to have bad days. You're going to have days where you don't want to get up in the morning, where you don't want to be productive. And that is completely fine because no one's productive 24/7. I don't care what successful person you talk to. They're not productive 24/7. They have to give themselves grace at some point in time. And a lot of times we don't do that. We don't give ourselves grace. But yeah, I think we have to give ourselves a certain amount of grace where we allow ourselves to be emotional. We allow ourselves to deal with certain things. And sometimes you could be in a bad mood. That's fine. Like, it's fine as long as you get back up. As long as you're not just delving in that and you're not just like, oh, I'm just about to be in this mood for 3 days at a time. Like, and I tell my kids, like,
balance.
Yeah.
It goes back to balance.
And you have to have the bad to balance out the good. So you have to allow yourself grace to heal. And if you're going through traumatic things, there has to be some type of release from that. There have to be some type of tears. Anger might be the release of that. Let that come out. Just get back up from it. That's it.
And if you find yourself going through drama all the time,
you got to do some work.
You need to change your circle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's some people that it's like, God damn.
Right.
Oh, it's like every week is something new. I'm like, yo, something needs to change.
Like high school.
Well, teenagers can be a little dramatic as well.
I'm saying if you're an adult and you're constantly going through drama, that's like high school.
Oh yeah, that's like high school.
It's like, yo, something's got to change.
High school, you can go through all the drama you want to. You ain't got no bills.
You're going through hormones. Your body's changing.
No bills.
Right.
You ain't got to go to work in the morning. You just going to school. Go through all the drama, get it out your system.
Facts.
You're good. You're good.
And some kids need to hear that too, because they think it is like the worst thing in the world. Like,
you do, and then you get old, and you're like, "Wow, that was nothing."
Wow. Yeah, I was really tripping off that shit.
Wow.
Right, and it was nothing. But I mean, you have to think about that. The way that you're looking back towards when you were in high school, look at you now and be like, "Why am I tripping off of this?"
Yeah.
You know, in due time, it will pass. So I think that's the real thing. Just remembering, like, you know, how do you see yourself in the past, and kind of like giving yourself that grace that you're giving yourself for what you did when you were younger. But Jackie, did you want to tap on that? Or
no? Okay.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. But I want to thank you guys.
Oh yeah.
For coming in. I really appreciate Dre for you coming. You know, the superstar, the mayor. And
Mayor.
You
got my vote.
You got my vote.
I appreciate that, Jackie.
Right.
Thank you, man.
Would he have to be like a governor for you to vote for him?
Hey, man.
Dre the governor.
Slow down, guys.
Slow down.
I'll go move to Compton if I got to.
Right.
You need to come on through, man.
Everybody, let's go buy houses
vote
in
for
Compton.
you.
It's pretty cool out here in the hub.
Right. Shout out, and shout out to the Ladies Night radio show. You know, like I said. Lord, Jesus.
Can men be there?
He was on guest list.
Yeah, okay.
He was
you
a
sure
guest.
you want that?
Yes.
I'm just kidding.
You can see it's a good time. We have a good time. You think of have ladies' night. You have a good time.
It's like exactly when I saw the first one, and I was like, I thought it was just gonna be you and Madi.
Yes.
And I was like, I saw the pictures, and I'm like, oh, it's like legit ladies' night. Like, it's a cool time. But like I said, you're operating in a field that people know. I think I maybe support black men more than I support black women.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Not a problem with it, but somebody has to do it.
Exactly.
But I'm just not that, feminist type of person. I'm like, sisterhood is good. Yeah, black girl magic and all of that. But black men, black boys, that is where, like, my legit heart is. Yep. And like I said, from experience, I grew up with 3 black brothers and a father. Most of my cousins are black men, black boys now. So I grew up and was taught to love and nurture black men. So that's kind of just what I've continued doing. But, not everybody can operate in that. So and that's the thing. Like, I can't get mad at Jackie, like, and be, hating, like, oh my gosh, she just has a woman's show and I wanted to do that. Like, no, that's not my field. Mm-hmm. So I'm celebrating you. And I think what you're doing is, like, it's super dope because we need that. But it's not for everybody to do. And I think, like, that's where your passion is in woman and radio, and you found a way to mesh the two in one night. So I really do appreciate listening, and I think, like, it's just a dope thing to just be on the team.
I just love Jackie's energy.
She's so loving and caring.
Jackie's energy. I just love
her. Yes. But yeah, Trey, do you have the mayor, the one that is holding Compton? Well, he's rebuilding Compton with his bare hands.
Man, I am about to start a campaign to get people registered to vote, specifically millennials. Mm-hmm. We're going to do a huge focus on that going into the first quarter of 2019. Mm-hmm. There's an election coming up in April, and I want to get the millennials involved, want us to have a voice in the voting process. I've talked about the statistics in Compton before. It's 100,000 people. Yep. It's 45,000 registered voters. It's 3,000 active voters. So that's 3% of the population. And the average age is 24 years old. So statistically speaking, it's you little niggas that's not voting. So I want to be. Excuse me. And in getting the millennials to vote, I speak the language that we need to hear. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, y'all need to actually do something about what's going on. We're directly affected.
Right.
We're mostly affected. Yep. And we're affected the longest term by what's going on. You have older people that are voting for what's going to happen in your life for the next 20 years.
Right.
And, you know what I'm saying? They might not be here, with all due respect, but you know what I'm saying? And you are, and
honestly,
you have to deal with it. So I think that we just need to have more of a voice in the process, and get back to our own communities, and we can build up our own infrastructure to do whatever it is that we need to do on our own. And I just think the power is there. Right. We just need to utilize it. So that's my main thing going into 2019.
Vote. Yeah. And Dre's the one that got me interested in it and voting. In voting.
I know, because you weren't going to vote.
Well, prior to me not wanting to vote the last election, Dre gave me those statistics, and he always would talk about it, and I would go and say stuff to other people, but he was the one that, like, kind of pushed it, because I was just like, I don't care. Like, and now that I don't care, I've said this before, like, I'm very hands-on. I'm in the dirt. I'm getting dirty. And to me, if I'm going to make a change, I want to see the person that it's affecting. And for me, it's just a mental thing where you don't necessarily see the change the way that I'm looking for a change. Yeah. So it was just one of those things, you listen and you trust the people that are around you. And it's like Jay's saying, you need to go vote. And if if these numbers are true, I'm a part of the problem. So I was like, all right, let me register to vote. So, if you haven't got anybody else to vote, you got me to vote. Okay.
That's what's up.
I really never met somebody like Dre that like rides so hard for their city.
Yeah.
It's inspiring. Like, I love going to his events. His events are so welcoming.
Yeah.
And it's so inclusive and it's fun. It's like,
it's a community. Yeah. Because a lot of people are like, out for money and all of this, but it's just something for the community where the community can just experience. So
let's be clear though. We still want bread. You know what I mean?
No, but I'm just saying,
and there's nothing wrong with that. That's real.
Let me clear this up though, because everybody thinks it's because community things should be free, but the truth of the matter is, if you ain't got no money, you ain't making no noise.
That's true.
And that's just America. So that's why I'm big on recycling our own money, is because broke man ain't got no voice. out here. Like, that's just what it is. So, we need to stop saying, or stop insinuating because things are community. And I'm not getting on you guys about it. I'm just saying people in general.
Right.
I think, because you do something for the community, it has to be, like, everything's supposed to be, like, no money involved. And that can't be the case. We need to teach our community how to make money. And that's how you're going to start making a change. Like, there's no way in the world you're going to be interested in voting when you got to work 80 hours a week.
Right.
Like, you ain't got time for that shit.
Right.
So it's just, you know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta take everything into consideration.
Right.
But yes, thank you for that. I mean, I did have to say that, though.
Yes. So thank you for coming.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yes. You'll probably be back soon, so.
Oh, I'm coming here.
Right. He's always welcome with the good news.
Right.
Always love, man.
Yes. Yeah, Jeremy, any last words or anything?
I'm just really grateful to be here. I said this yesterday, I'll say it again. We are exactly where we need to be, period. Everything that led you here, everything that happened that set you back, everything that's still going on, still propelled you to be in this space.
Right.
And I'm very happy that we came here with intentionality and all the listeners were able to hear our stories. And hopefully, as we peeled back some wounds, they could find some healing on their own. And I'm really thankful that, I'm saying, LA used to be my home, bro. I used to be out here. I became a man out here. I was born in the Bay, but I came out here for college, and from 18 through 28, I stayed in Los Angeles. I stayed out here in an Empire, and like a lot of my drive came from here. So I want to thank y'all for sending me back to the Bay to do this work, because now I came back with a full head of steam, and I'll just keep the passion, and I'm just happy to be in spaces where I feel like I'm meant to be.
Right. Yeah, so that is pretty much it. I'm going to wrap it up, but thank you guys, like I said, for coming. These conversations are always necessary, so we'll definitely be posting videos and all of that so you guys can, like, repost it and get more people to listen. But, it was I don't want to say heavy, but it was just a conversation where we touched on a lot of different things and kind of, like, shared stuff. So I'm glad that we can provide this platform for you guys, and hopefully we can have more conversations. I can curate more conversations where people are.
I love listening to you.
Listening and stuff.
I'll just be late on Saturday morning just listening to you.
Trying to level up and start curating better conversations. So. But that's that. Thank you guys for listening. I always do a takeaway. So I guess for this week, I don't know, just kind of, like you said, be present, and understand you are where you are supposed to be. Like, whatever is going on right now, you are where you're supposed to be. And then also to those of us that are, like, activists and advocating for others, please understand, like, the work does get heavy. The work is a lot. You will have people, like Jay said, that will come for you and try to tear you down, at your feet and just knock your whole movement over. But at the end of the day, like we said, or like I said, there was somebody 20 years ago who prayed and hoped and worked the hell out of something that we are seeing today. And there was somebody 10 years ago that in 10 years we'll see that change. So there's always a change happening. If you are an advocate, if you are an activist, continue to push that movement. Like everyone sitting at this table, we're pushing movements and we're trying to do better for those that are listening to us, those that are seeing us. So continue to move. You're hearing it from activists that are sitting here. We are pushing for not only ourselves, but for other people. And I think it's a very selfless work that we do. So if no one else tells you, I appreciate every one of you guys for doing what it is. I appreciate being able to benefit from your work. But yeah, just you got to keep pushing. Make sure you enjoy your family and everything over this holiday season. I will be back next Saturday at 10 a.m. Maybe we'll try to get some more people in here to have some more necessary conversations. But that is it. And I'm signing off. So
love you, Jess.
I love you too.